I usually brag about how I flew a long way to get here, and that's why you need to give me energy, but I live down the street, so can't use that one today. But we're here to talk about this, clearly. We're here to talk about DevOps. I happen to have DevOps in my title, so I get asked, what is DevOps all the time? And I better be able to define it if I'm going to have it in my title. Well, I got asked that exact same question at Microsoft. Donovan, what is DevOps? And then what I blurted out, they put on their websites and in their books, and holy crap, right? What was interesting, though, is I recently found a video that I believe just crystallizes what your company can look like before and after you implement DevOps. And what I want to do is I want to share that video with you now, and we'll talk about the video after.
But Holland comes in for a pit stop. Time to refuel and change tires. Lou Moore himself changes the tires. Only 4 crew members, including the driver, are allowed to work on the car. It's a tense time. Holland stays in his seat, anxious to get away. Let's watch. The tires are changed at last. A crewman polishes the windshield as Holland moves away just 67 seconds after he stopped.
When I saw that video, I was like, that's it. That's what every company should be trying to do. They should be trying to use DevOps as a strategic advantage to move faster than they ever did before. I'm extremely active on Twitter, so I tweeted this, and I said DevOps before and after. And I'm reading the comments, and most people, they got it. But a couple people said there was no value in the second pit stop at all. And I'm reading this and thinking, what the hell is this guy talking about? This doesn't make any sense. And clearly, I'm in my office having a physical reaction because my wife walks in and says, what's wrong with you? So I'm mumbling to myself, and I'm like all hunched over. How do they not get it? This is a brilliant analogy. I should write a blog post. She's like, yeah, you should write a blog post. So I did. There's a huge, long blog post of why this is a perfect analogy for DevOps. But what we're going to do, too, is we're going to talk about these two individuals here. Now, I blurred their faces because I don't want to embarrass them, but I did not delete the tweet. So if you want to know who these two knuckleheads are, you can actually go find my blog post and see exactly who these two people are. But let's talk about these two people here. First one, the increase in the number of people. How many of you remember compact computers? I live right down the street from there, right? So for the young people who don't remember compact computers, it's called HP. All the old people raised their hands because they all knew. Back in '96, I used to work at compact computers. I, Donovan Brown, was a software engineer. When I was done writing software, I would walk into a room full of ProLiant servers. That was our production server room. I, Donovan Brown, could pull out a tray, type in my username and password, and the thing said, welcome, Donovan Brown. I then got to take a hammer and swing it at that ProLiant server, deleting registry settings, moving files, copying files wherever I needed to get my files onto that machine and get my software working. It was literally just me and a ProLiant server. That was it. And then what you would do is you'd have to run out of that room as fast as you could, because if the IT pro didn't see you, it was their fault. It was beautiful. It was an amazing way to write software. All the benefits with none of the consequences, right? Didn't matter how good the software was as long as I got it on there and got out of the room. It was just me and the computer. Try that today. Impossible. First of all, you don't even know where the servers are. You definitely do not have admin permissions on that server. Dev is involved, ops is involved, QA is involved, auditing, security, program management. Name another role, they think they're involved in deploying software into production right now. There are simply more people involved today than ever before when it comes to deploying software, and this is why this is a perfect analogy. But what I thought was interesting is when I saw all those people, I didn't see them as people. I saw them as automation, continuous integration, continuous delivery, infrastructure as code, security, automatic rollbacks, auditing, right? Because you have to measure what you do to make sure that what you've done is actually valuable, right? Why make a change if I don't know if it's going to add benefit to it? These two gentlemen up here, they never move. They are watching a 3-second pit stop to see how it can be a 2.5-second pit stop next time. You should be doing the exact same thing with every change that you make. You don't know if it's beneficial if you don't measure it. What's hot right now? Everyone loves taking a word and slam it in between DevOps, right? DevSecOps, Dev everything else ops, DevBizOps, whatever you want to call it. Security is the hot one right now. What are these two gentlemen here doing? They're literally just securing the car onto the jack so that it does not slip off. Security is important in DevOps. Security is important in this analogy as well. How many of you are on your DevOps transformation today? Hopefully by the end of this, more people are going to be raising their hands. I bet you the very first time you tried it, it didn't go as well as you thought it was going to. What's the first thing you thought of? Man, how do we roll this thing back? Right? How do we have an automatic rollback? Because that hurt. And I have a feeling at some point, this gentleman here jacking up the car had to have failed. Do you know why? Because that guy has a jack too. Built right into this analogy is automatic rollback, security, auditing. It's all there. You know, another thing that I noticed that you should be doing is as you are on this transformation, you should be reevaluating your tools and improving the products that you use because better products come out every day. In the past, what were they using? A hammer. What do they use today? An impact wrench, right? Upgrade your tools, upgrade your processes so that you can move faster than you ever have before. Every time I look at this picture, I see another perfect analogy that just jumps off the screen of why this is a perfect analogy for DevOps. Now let's talk about they did not refuel the car. If you think not refilling the car was a lack of value, you're completely missing the point. It is not that they did not refuel the car. It's that they did not have to refuel the car. Drastically different. That one word changes this entire thing, right? They completely removed the bottleneck altogether. What they had to do is shift left innovation and technology to make the car go further on less. And let's look at this pit stop again. Is refilling the car what hurts the most? No. If we were to refuel the car at the exact same rate in this film as we did in the second film, we still would have been done in half the time, right? So when you go back and you start on your DevOps transformation or wherever you are, focus on the thing that hurts the most. Don't waste time on the little stuff. Don't waste time on the thing that takes 5 seconds and make it take 4 seconds when there's this other thing that takes an hour, which means I don't even notice that impact that you've just had. What they should have done here is figured out, how do we change these tires faster? Which, in my mind, they had to have. We got it down from 67 seconds down to, let's say, 10 seconds. Now, all of a sudden, you realize that the person holding the gas is the bottleneck. Because if we can start fixing the gas problem, we're going to get out of here in 10 seconds. And that's exactly what they had to go do. They went and they made the car more efficient. They went and made the engine more efficient, such that instead of having to refuel the car at all, they simply go from changing 2 tires in 67 seconds to changing all 4 tires and getting that car back on the track in less than 3 seconds. This is what we're trying to do. So I love this video. I love to share this video because it kind of gets us in the right mindset and lets you peek inside of my head. Whenever I'm working with a customer, I'm trying to take them from the first video to the second video. And at Microsoft, we build products and tools that allow you to do just that. So back to the original question. What is DevOps? And what did I say when Microsoft asked me? I said this. I said that DevOps is the union of people, process, and products to enable continuous delivery of value to our end users. The most important word is value. It is not about software. It is about value. Okay? That's what you're trying to deliver. Think about Black Friday and Cyber Monday. They come every single year. Do I have to change a single line of my software to keep my response times down? To be able to sustain more simultaneous users? No. I can scale up or scale out my infrastructure and deliver value to all of our end users. It's an amazing thing, right? Focus on the value, not on the software. If I say software, I'm only talking to half of this problem. I'm only talking to the developers. The ops people are going to turn a deaf ear to me. Donovan, you're not even talking to us, right? Because we're responsible for the software. We're responsible for the infrastructure. And I go to a lot of customers, especially all the big oil and gas, because I live here in Houston. And they're like, Donovan, our ops teams and our dev teams, they just simply don't work together. What's the problem? I'm like, how do you incentivize them? Back when I worked at Compaq, I got the big bonus when I changed that server as much as I possibly could by adding new features and what I thought was value to that server. That's how I got the big bucks. But my counterpart, the ops person, you know how they got the big bucks? Keep the lights on the server on. You know the easiest way to do that? Stop letting Donovan touch it. Right? If the server is already stable and you do not change it, it will stay stable. So they are literally incentivized to stop me from doing my job. And I'm incentivized to make their job a living hell, right? Because I want to change it to get the big bonus. They want to stop me to get their big bonus. But if we all focus on value instead, and we change the whole narrative and say, okay, Dev, you get the big bonus if you deliver value to our end users. And I go to the ops and I say the exact same thing. You get the big bonus when we deliver value to our end users. They will naturally start to work together. Because to work against each other defeats the purpose of both of them getting the bonuses that they want. So make sure you focus on value. The hardest part is people. What are we, the 4th largest city in the United States? But it took us this long to get a DevOps Days because the people weren't getting it. Now we have people who get it, right? And we need more and more people to get it. We need more and more butts in the seats. We got to get the people to understand, because if your people do not get this, there's no tools and processes in the world that are going to get you to DevOps, right? It simply will not work, right? This is not an option. This is not a nice to have. Your people getting it is mandatory for you to succeed. The process and the products, that's easy. Agile, Scrum, Kanban. How many of you think you're Agile? Think, yes, because most of you probably still are not, right? Let's just be perfectly honest. Oh, we don't do our daily stand-ups because they take too long. Well, then you're not Agile, you're not Scrum, right? You can't skip the rituals and claim that you're Scrum just because you don't write documents anymore. It makes us Agile, which is total nonsense as well. Exactly. Products, tons of products, right? We have products. All of our competitors have products. Most of us give you the products for free. The hard part is the people, but make sure you focus on value. And I think you're going to be on a good start. So let's talk about a specific story that's near and dear to my heart. I obviously work at Microsoft, and we're on this exact same DevOps transformation that you are in your organizations as well. And we're on it multiple times. The Windows team is on this transformation. The Office team is on this transformation. Bing, Xbox, HoloLens, Azure DevOps, you name it. We're all at different places and different stages of that, but I'm going to talk to you about one particular team. The Azure DevOps team actually builds Azure DevOps, and we're going to talk about how they went from a 3-year cadence back down to a 3-week cadence, which is fantastic. Where did this all start? I believe it all started with this gentleman right here. Satya Nadella has completely changed Microsoft. Changed our outlook, changed our reputation, changed our mission, changed everything. And I'm really proud that I joined Microsoft December 2013. He took over February 2014. This is literally the only Microsoft I've ever worked for. It was one led by this gentleman here. #1 contributors to open source, who is it? Microsoft. All the old people are like, that does not make sense. Every time I hear it, it makes me feel weird. How was it a cancer and horrible, yet we're the #1 contributor to open source in the world? This guy right here. Before I joined Microsoft, I was a process consultant. I flew all over the world installing and implementing Team Foundation Server. How many of you remember TFS 2005? All right, I'm sorry about that. That was rough, right? I flew all over the world installing it. That's how rough it was. That was literally my job, to install it. But our whole company got certified as Scrum Master, so what I would do is I would stay on staff for up to 18 months at one point, and I would take a waterfall company kicking and screaming into the Agile world. It was an amazing experience, right? Because I actually missed that part of my career, because you get to see the changes, you get to see your impact on organizations that last for decades. It's an amazing experience. And what was important is that we needed to do that inside of Microsoft too, and this gentleman did that. So after I was a consultant, I got recruited into Microsoft, and I was a seller. So I would come out and I would sell you Team Foundation Server. And the way that I would sell it to you is I was a technical seller. So the salesman, the normal salesman, the suit-wearing, license-understanding person would come in and promise you the world, and you say, that's BS. TFS can't do all that. And then I would fly in. I would do this amazing demo and prove that everything that they promised you was actually real. Then you'd write the check, and then I'd leave, and then I'd rinse and do that again. Funny thing is after the demo, no matter how well the demo went, if you were to look under the table, my leg was trembling. Why? Because I was always afraid the customer would say, so, how does Microsoft use TFS? Because we weren't. We were actually selling you software we didn't use ourselves. And I remember TR19, Tech Ready, TR stands for Tech Ready. It's a conference where he actually spoke. It was TR19. I was sitting in the front row, so excited because I'd never seen Satya Nadella speak, so I am just eager, and it was like he spoke directly to me. Because he got on stage and said, we have to stop living this fake life where we would write software for others that we would not use ourselves. I was like, wow. If you make that true, me selling this product is going to be so much easier because I will lead with the fact that we use it, not hide away or shy away from the fact that I hope you don't ask me if we use it, right? So he mandated that Windows is coming, Office is coming, everyone is going to use what we call one engineering system, and that one engineering system is going to be the Azure DevOps. Back then it was called VSTS, before that VSO, before that TFS. Don't forgive us for the names. We suck at naming, but the products are awesome, right? So forgive us for the names. But this is the guy who changed all of this stuff, and it was amazing when he said that because it empowered me to go off and be far more confident in what we do. So this is the team I'm going to be talking to you about. You're going to hear me say Microsoft. You're going to hear me say we a lot today. But I am not talking about Microsoft all up. I'm talking about specifically this team here. It's about 700 engineers, 50 feature teams all across the world that build these 5 services for you. Just quickly, Azure Boards, it's a Jira Compete where you do all your agile planning, Kanban boards, things like that. CI/CD, so think about Jenkins, Bamboo, things like that. That's that Compete there. Azure Repos, GitHub, GitLab, all your Git repositories, and also centralized version control. All your HP testing tools, we compete with test plans, and then Artifacts is basically our artifact we compete. This is basically everything you need to turn an idea into a working piece of software from one particular vendor. Cool thing is, you don't have to use it all. But we do use it internally. We do about, this is just Microsoft using Azure DevOps, not our customers. We do about 163,000 deployments per day of assets from Microsoft using our product. We also have 6.3 million builds per month. So we are definitely dog fooding this product, which is why the product got so good so fast. When you have to use it, it gets good really, really fast, right? Because you are forced to use the product that you build. Dog fooding is extremely powerful. So this is when we started sprinting. And remember, TFS started back in 2005, but we started sprinting on our agile transformation in about 2010. We sprint every 3 weeks, and we are now, I believe, at sprint 149. I mean, 149, I'm sorry. 149 is where we are right now. And we just keep on going nonstop. One of the things I have to say about sprinting like this, you got to find times to celebrate. Okay, because sometimes you feel like you're on a death march, and one sprint goes into the next sprint, and if you never stop and pat people on the back and say, you've been doing a great job, people are going to eventually get tired and worn out. So find those moments in time where you can just stop for a second, give people pizza and ice cream and big cakes, whatever it takes to just make them feel appreciated, because someone that does not feel appreciated will go find someone that will make them feel appreciated, right? So make sure you find the time to do that, and we do that quite often on our teams here. One of the key things that drives what we do is our definition of done. If you are an Agile shop, if you are a Scrum shop, you should have a DOD. It is your definition of done. And everyone on the team should agree on what that is so that when I ask you for estimates, you know what we're actually trying to get to. If you're brand new to Scrum or Agile, I would not start with this DOD. This is probably one of the most mature DODs I've ever seen, right? You're not done until that product is running in production and sending telemetry home that lets us know if that was a good idea or not. Start off with code complete, right? Start off with shippable. Start off small, and then in your retrospective, start turning that dial. Start turning it up. Start adding more constraints and adding more quality to what you're doing. And eventually, hopefully, you're going to get to something that looks like this. And this is just where we are today, because I truly don't believe we're done. If it's sending telemetry home, we're done when we replace that feature with what's going to replace it in the future. If I'm still coding on it, am I done? If I'm still tweaking it, am I done? No, but this is as far as we've gotten today. At one point, it will say until that product is replaced with something else. That is when we're done with it, right? So just keep cranking that up. But this, I just wanted you to be very clear, is our DOD inside of this team. Historically, we were just program management, development, and testing. And it's funny because testing should be small and like off to the distance, right? Because that's where testing was in our mind in our organization, right? You've all been there. The program managers go and get the requirements. The developers put on a pedestal, go and code for 18 months. And then all of a sudden, it's 2 weeks till we ship. And we give it to testing. We blame them for every bug that ships into production, right? It's unfair, and it's not a cool way to live. And what we needed to do is figure out how do we make our development team responsible for the quality at time zero? Because that's what we need. What they were doing is they were getting code complete, throwing all this untested code over the wall to testing, and then wondering why all this technical debt came back. It's because you weren't testing the code beforehand. So what we decided is like, that's it. We're going to take our testing team and our development team, and we're going to jam them together and call them engineers. You're responsible for the quality at time zero, period. You got to be writing unit tests. You're responsible for the manual test. You got to write the automation for it. Because if you're responsible for the quality from time zero, we're going to have higher quality code. You should be designing the quality into the product, not bolting it onto the product after the fact, right? And that's exactly what we're able to do. And then you also notice we brought in the ops team to make sure that these people had great communications, really embracing the DevOps mantra. We're an agile team. So what we do is we take a collection of these individuals and we create what we call a feature team. This is just a Scrum team. It's a cross-functional team. Has one program manager on it. That is basically our product owner. Everyone else is our engineering team or our Scrum team that's going to turn each idea into a working piece of software. Product owner owns our product backlog. And another thing that's really cool is that we have a direct connection to our customers. If you're an old-time Microsoft person, you know how hard it was to get to one of us. It was almost impossible. right? We were like in this ivory tower. You could send all the emails and complaints you wanted to. We had our heads in the sand for 3 years. We're going to give you what we're going to give you 3 years from now, and you're going to like it, right? It's a rough way to write software. And we paid the price for it. Jenkins started kicking our butts. Jira started kicking our butts, right? Because we simply had to change the way that we thought. So what we said is that that's it. Our teams are going to be connected to our customers. And I'll give you an example. Twitter, again, is a fantastic way to get to us. It's public. It's almost like it's a forcing factor because it's public. You send us an email, I might or might not read it, might not care. You call me out in public, I'm going to address that problem, right? Because everyone can see it. So I get a tweet one morning. Donovan, my builds were working yesterday. They don't work today. I didn't change anything. Give me a second. I added the program manager to, I think at that time it was Mobile Center, to that tweet, to that thread. He goes back, does some research. 3 hours later, he tweets back again, try it again. Amazing, right? We literally had a production fix pushed out into production 3 hours from getting a tweet from one of our customers that said it wasn't working anymore. That's the new Microsoft, and that's what we're trying to do. And that's why we make sure our product teams are directly close to our customers. You can get to us on Twitter. You can get to us on, user voice. You can get to us on our developer pages. We actually have places for you to talk to us and make sure that we hear what you're trying to say. All of our teams sit together with very, very few exceptions. This is not the only way this can work. You can clearly, obviously, work in a remote way where your entire team is virtual, but we find that this is the most effective way for us to work. Reason why is because the communication is fantastic. If this engineer here has a problem with this person's API, they don't have to find them on Slack, they don't have to schedule a meeting with them, they don't have to hope that they're on Teams, they don't have to worry about any of that stuff. They swivel their chair, they have a conversation, and they get back to work again. You know what's really cool about this when it comes time for your daily stand-up? You just stand up, right? Everyone's in earshot. You answer the 3 questions, you sit your butt back down, you get right back to work. It's fantastic. It's very efficient for us, and we love it. Now, sometimes this gentleman and this gentleman disagree on what should be changed in the API, or if it's a bug or not. Luckily, we have these 2 rooms on the outside of this room where they can close the door and have a more spirited debate on who's right and who's wrong. What's really cool about that, it has whiteboards in there, it has conferencing software, because although the teams sit together, we have 50 of these across the world. We have some in Raleigh, North Carolina, some of them in Redmond, Washington, where we're headquartered, a lot of them in Hyderabad, India, where we have our IDC, and we have some of them in San Francisco. If I need to talk to one of the teams across the world, we go into one of these what we call focus rooms, and we can go use the conferencing software and have whatever conversations that we need. Another fun fact about the rooms is that the rooms are completely self-managing, and they create their own cultures in each of the rooms. As you'll notice, this gentleman here is drinking a soft drink at his desk. Some rooms allow that, some rooms do not allow that, right? This gentleman here has his headphones on. Again, some rooms allow that, some rooms do not allow that. They all have their own culture because they're self-managed. The room that I was in was a fun room, but we could never have taken a picture of it. Like, that's how much fun it was in that room. I remember one day I walk into that room, it's the very first day, I'm trying to roll my desk in there, and it's hard to move my desk because I'm bumping up on stuff. I'm looking on the ground, and the ground is just covered with these weird items. And I reach down, and I pick one of them up, and I realize it's a Nerf bullet. You know, like a Nerf gun? And like a scary movie, I look up and I see the desk, and everyone has a gun on their desk. I'm like, what goes on in this room? And then I realize that when one of them just gets frustrated or needs to blow off steam, they just start shooting at the other person. And the next thing you know, it's like war games in there. But what you want to make sure you have is a gun, because if you don't, you're the only person getting shot. It sucks, right? But that was the culture in that room, right? And literally, they had golf balls and Nerf bullets. It was just like a really lively, fun room to be in. But that's the culture of that particular room. But I like the fact that the teams all have their own culture. Now, I've been a software developer since the 90s, and I remember working on software to the point where I'd never want to see these lines of code ever again, right? As much as I loved the code when I started writing it, it's been 2 years, and if I see these same lines of code again, I'm going to go nuts. So what we do is every 12 to 18 months, we let the teams mix it up. There's 50 teams. You can actually stay within the Azure DevOps organization, move to another team, and have a completely fresh outlook on the code that you're writing, the problems that you're solving, but you're still helping the exact same customers. So every 12 to 18 months, all 50 leads get up and talk about, hey, this is why you want to come to our team for the next 12 to 18 months. Git is the future. You want to be on Git. No, work item tracking is the bomb. You want to come work on our, whatever the case might be. And then the engineers put their first, second, and third choices on yellow sticky notes and then stick them where they want to work. 80% of the people go back to the team they were already on. They like the software that they're working on. They like the team. They like the culture. They already bought the Nerf gun, whatever the case might be, right? I've already made an investment in this team, and I like this team. But what's really beneficial for us is 20% don't go back. That allows us to take that perception, that diverse viewpoint, and move it along our teams. Now we're actually pollinating all of our teams with this great amount of experience that we have. So it's very low friction. We don't even get HR involved, and we just let the teams go ahead and rotate around, which is fantastic. So this is just something that we try, that we like to share with people, and how we keep our teams fresh and energized. It might work for you as well. We run 3-week sprints. Do not run 3-week sprints because you just heard Microsoft runs 3-week sprints. Your sprint length needs to be determined by your factors, by your environment. I remember I used to write software for a stock trading company. We literally had computers who would trade stocks for us. We cannot have a 4-week sprint because you can't make a bet in the stock market that's 4 weeks long. The stock market moves like crazy. Like one day I'm rich, the next day I'm freaking poor, right? All in the move of one particular stock. So what we need to be able to do is inspect and adapt. We had 1-week sprints when we were working on software that traded stocks. Now I also had a 4-week sprint once when I was working for a physician. He was a practicing physician. He was our product owner and our key stakeholder. We could not get him to stop billing to come to our office more frequently than every 4 weeks, because he's giving up billable hours to come look at our sprint review. So we had a 4-week sprint in that scenario. But how do we get the 3 weeks at Microsoft? I wasn't there when they picked 3 weeks, so I asked someone who was. His name is Aaron Bjork. He used to run all of our work item tracking. I said, so how did you get the 3 weeks? And they called it the Goldilocks syndrome. It's like, what do you mean the Goldilocks syndrome? I said, well, we tried 2 weeks, and it was too small. And we tried 4 weeks, and it felt too big. But when we got to 3 weeks, it was just right. Because if you've done Scrum, you know there's a lot of rituals. There's lots of ceremony. And if you're on a very short sprint, it feels like you're in more meetings than you are actually developing code. And if you try to do a 4-week sprint, your estimates are so bad in the 4th week, you hardly ever get to any of that stuff anyway. So why are we wasting time planning 4 weeks worth of work when we only get 3 weeks worth of work done accurately anyway? So what we did is we chose 3 weeks, and we've been sprinting at 3 weeks ever since. Now, how do you keep 50 teams all across the world in sync? We actually send out what we call sprint plan emails. So it's a plan that says, this is what we intend to do for the next three weeks. And I can actually see everything inside of there. I can go read more about their project. And if I have a dependency on that particular team, I can see if that email has the item that I need to be done so that I can do what I need to do on my team. So it allows us all to keep in sync with each other. At the end of those 3 weeks, instead of me trying to schedule 50 different sprint reviews to attend, I get another email. And this email has a video in it that is a 3 to 5 minute video showing me the value that was added to the product in the previous sprint. So again, it's as if I was able to sit in 50 different sprint reviews, watch them at my leisure, and make sure that we all stay in sync. Now, this is funny because this is how we used to do it. The reason I still tell this story is that I want to point out to you that what I'm telling you now is where Microsoft is today, but we are continuously looking for places to improve. 50 teams sending me 100 emails, right? Because you've got to remember, this one starts when this one ends. I get this email when I get another email saying the sprint started. I get 100 emails every 3 weeks. It was just way too much. So what we do now is we've taken this process and we've tweaked it just a little bit to where instead of getting that, I get one email from the group program manager. So let's say, for example, I had 6 different teams working on work item tracking. That would result in 12 different emails. Now I just get one. It's easier for me to read. It's easier for me to correlate all the information for that particular team, and it drives towards that team's epic, right? So again, I'm actually basically raising the level so that I get less noise, and I'm able to focus more on the information that I want, and it's actually a lot easier for me to get through all the emails. And I'm more likely to read them now because I get a fraction of the emails I got before. I like telling the story of how we used to do it and how we do it now so that you can see that we're constantly looking for places. This is us inspecting and adapting. This is like the 2 guys who didn't move, realizing that 100 emails is too many emails. We got to find a better way to do this, and you should be constantly looking for that, right? Just because you can deploy your code out into production every time you commit code doesn't mean you should think that you're done. You should find more and more ways to improve it, and we're constantly doing that inside of Microsoft as well. Let's talk about planning. Again, we have 3-week sprints. We have recently switched over to OKRs. Is anyone familiar with objectives and key results? Yeah, so we're big on objectives and key results now. If you're not, there's a couple good books, and you can tweet at me, and I'll send you some recommendations for reading material on OKRs. But that's why we now have quarterly reviews here, because your OKRs, your objectives are usually by quarter. So every quarter we go and we review our previous OKRs and decide what our new OKRs are going to be. One of the meetings that's actually not on this screen, which I like, is every 3 sprints, so every 9 weeks, the leads of related teams all come together for like a scrum of scrums. When Aaron was there, I actually asked if I could sit in on one of his meetings, and I was phoned into it. They were clearly having lunch. He had bought pizza for all the leads. And then one of the leads said, okay, so for the next 9 weeks, what my team's going to work on is this widget. And this widget's going to allow our customers to do X, Y, and Z. And then one of the other engineers said, that's interesting, because I'm pretty sure we just worked on a widget that sounds just like that. So why don't you have your engineer talk to my engineer, and let's make sure that we're not about to duplicate code. They realized that they could actually reuse the exact same widget. Had they not had that meeting, what would have happened? We'd have 2 widgets doing the exact same thing in our code base, carrying their own bugs and their own technical debt. By allowing your teams to come together and collaborate really helps with your code sharing. If you're struggling with code sharing, people just simply don't know what your other teams are doing. And you need to give them opportunities to come together and make sure that they're aware of what the other teams are doing. We do 9-month semesters, all based on our 12-month strategy. Our 12-month strategy is our leadership team saying, based on everything that we know, based on what our competition has done, based on everything I learned at the conference, where do we believe our product needs to be 12 months from this very point in time? What features do we need? What technologies do we need to embrace? What do we need to have in our product 12 months from this particular day? Now, if you were to look 12 months behind me from the last time we did this, if we've only done 60% of what we thought we needed 12 months ago, that's a success. Why? Because the world changes, right? You don't want to be so stubborn that you said, nope, we said we're going to do that 12 months ago. I know it's no longer important, but we said we're going to do it, so we're going to do it. That would be foolish. What we do is we're constantly inspecting and adapting what we're doing, and we realize that the world's going to change. So if we hit 60% of our target, that's a success for us. And what we do is we break down this target into 2 6-month seasons or semesters. They used to land on Build, which is a big conference that's actually about to come up in May, and another one was at Connect, which happened every year in November in New York. Those were 2 big events where you'd see Scott Guthrie get on stage and make these huge announcements of what's new